Hey, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. If you haven't already done so, please visit ProRelevant.com and sign up for all these episodes and podcasts. I am the author of the newly released book, The Post-COVID Marketing Machine, Prepare Your Team to Win. And you can find out more information on this book at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. There is so much going on today in marketing and AI, and especially as AI and especially generative AI exploded onto the scene here in the beginning of the year. Marketers are learning more and more about how to take advantage of it and build creative solutions that can really differentiate their brands. Whether you're a small or a large marketer, getting AI to work for them can be a great differentiator in the market. Today, I'm interviewing Peter Voss. He's the founder, CEO, and chief scientist at AGI Innovations and Aigo.ai. So let me tell you a little bit about Peter. He is a pioneer in AI who coined the term artificial general intelligence. He is the CEO and chief scientist at Aigo.ai, and for the past 15 years, Peter Voss and his team at Aigo have been perfecting an industry-disruptive, highly intelligent, and hyper-personalized chatbot with a brain for large enterprise customers. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. So tell us what is your backstory on how you got involved in marketing and AI, and then how did you get to where you are today?
Well, I'll try and keep it brief, but I started out as an electronics engineer, started my own electronics company, and then fell in love with software. So my company turned into a software company. I developed an ERP package, a comprehensive ERP package for small to medium-sized businesses. And that company was quite successful, went from the garage to 400 people and did an IPO. So that was very exciting. It's when I exited that company that I started thinking, well, what big project do I want to tackle next? And it occurred to me that software really is quite stupid. If the programmer doesn't think of something, it'll just crash. It doesn't have common sense and it doesn't really learn. So how can we fix that? How can we build intelligent software? And so I went on a journey of discovering or really learning about what intelligence is all about, what human level intelligence, how do children learn? How does our intelligence differ from animals? What do IQ tests measure? And, all the work that had been done in the field of artificial intelligence. And it's a culmination of that, the studies really brought me to a point to start building an artificial brain, to build a system that can think, learn, and reason more the way humans do. And that's what's been consuming me for the last 20 years. So it's been alternating between R&D, developing the technology, and then commercializing it. So that's really how I got to where we are today.
Yeah, fascinating. I hate to say it, I was also in my earlier life an electrical engineer, so and now I'm in marketing and business consulting and analytics a little bit as well, of course, on the consulting side, and so fantastic. So tell us about Aigo.ai, your company.
Right. So we call it a chatbot with a brain. Now, basically, the distinction is that all the other thousands of different chatbots that are out there don't have a brain. The way they operate is actually pretty old technology. It's essentially a categorizer that, you say something like blah, 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 weather, and, oh, okay, we'll trigger the weather routine. But then you could also say, I hate Uber, don't ever give me Uber again, and it'll probably still trigger the Uber app. And then there's kind of a flowchart type program where it will ask you, where do you want to go? How many people are going? And do you want Uber X? So that's pretty much the technology that most chatbots, or the majority of chatbots out there are. And this is what makes them so frustrating, because they don't take context into account. What you said earlier in the conversation, you can't easily break out of that flowchart program and that really don't have deep understanding or reasoning, common sense reasoning. So our approach is to have this artificial brain or cognitive engine that has short-term memory. It remembers what you said earlier in the conversation. It has long-term memory. It remembers what you said in prior conversations. And it uses context and reasoning to have a much deeper understanding. It allows you to, jump from one topic to another seamlessly. And so, that gives us it creates a much better customer experience, and also allows us to have a much higher completion rate as far as automation goes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know sometimes, it's easy to get frustrated with chatbots. Quite often, the chatbot is trying to not give you the answer. And I don't know about you, but the reason why I'm going to the chatbot is I want to get a very specific answer, and the chatbots are really there to give you a very generalized answer. And so, then it's really a trick of how to do the right prompt to get it to finally get you to the, would you like to speak to a representative? So, yeah, absolutely. So that sounds like really the new revolution in changing the way enterprise digital assistants work. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So, one of our big clients is 1-800-Flowers group of companies, Harry and David and Popcorn Factory and so on. And they were looking for a hyper-personalized concierge type assistant. The founders of the company said, we've been looking to be able to provide the kind of service we did when we started our company. We had one store, and we knew our customers. We knew who they buy flowers for, and on for what occasions, and so on. And they tried various technologies, well-known technologies, to do this, and it wasn't satisfactory at all. And so they contacted us. They actually listened to a podcast where I explained this some years ago, and they contacted us, and we implemented the system where you really have this personalized, hyper-personalized concierge that remembers who you buy presents for, and for what occasion, what kind of presents, what your relationship is to them. So you have a much, much better experience. In fact, in many cases, the experience will be far superior to what a human can offer, because the human operator won't remember that they spoke to you half an hour ago when you were calling about an order or something. And often there's a wait time, and the quality of training may not be that consistent. Then the other problem is, of course, you have Mother's Day and Valentine's Day. We have this massive explosion of demand, and to meet that. So we can offer this very high level of automation at very high quality, and we see this as the future, having this hyper personalized relationship that obviously drives loyalty and the amount of money that people will end up spending with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you compare the quality of this really important customer service function, whether it's a chatbot versus then an actual live human on the side, on the other side. And and that I could see it really being something that can be even offer better value than the human. Because it does remember, like you said, it does remember, past conversations. Whereas if I were to, to call in or get an agent, they may or may not have access to what we talked about in the past. And then not only that, they still have to then read what may have happened, and they may not be able to read very quickly. So that makes a lot of sense. So you talk about the trifecta of pain for call centers. What is that? What do you mean by that?
Well, yes, it's especially post-COVID, it's become really, really hard for companies to find staff and to train them and to retain them. So those are kind of the three issues. We hear that the average time that people stay on the job is some ridiculous number of like 1.5 months or something. You know, obviously a
Oh,
lot of people say, okay, let me try that. But after a few days, they say, well, forget it. This is not for me. So it's a real challenge for call centers to, you know, get people, the training overhead, and the quality, you know, the sort of inconsistent quality that they have, and then to keep people. So the right kind of automation, you know, if you have intelligent enough automation and it's properly implemented, can really overcome this problem.
yeah, yeah, makes a lot of sense. And I didn't realize that there, you know, that you could have that much turnover. A month and a half. In a month and a half, you barely know anything about the
Yes.
company. So if you have a complex business, or where you have to really, you know, be able to get information from maybe multiple sources, that would be, you know, that just makes the whole problem almost impossible to solve. So very interesting. Yeah, thank you for that. So then, how do you see this evolving? What do you see as the kind of the future of customer experience and engagement?
Well, we see that more and more enterprise companies will realize that this technology is available, and that you can really use automation to not only save money so that your CFO will love it, but your customers will love it, that they actually end up getting better service. I mean, we all hate it when we have to wait on the line, you know, to get a response from somebody when you're calling in. And then, you know, the awful thing of being shunted from one department to another, and you have to tell your whole story again. And, you know, they don't have access to your records and stuff like that. So it's really, the technology does exist now to provide this much better service, but it's not yet, you know, widely known. So that has to be the future.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. And I don't know. I thought we were just supposed to learn to love that hold music. It was it you know, you listen to it, and just recently I was on, I must have been on 20, 30 minutes, and that music certainly gets to be pretty bad after a while.
Wow,
So
wow.
yeah.
But you know, there's also the issue of a shift in demographics. You know, it used to be that people, because the technology wasn't that good, but also people just inherently said, "Oh, I want to talk to a human." But the younger generation doesn't want to talk to a human. Actually, they just want to, you know, ideally text. They don't even want to call and get stuff done. And we're finding that more and more, even in the older generation, it's just a matter of saying, I just want to get stuff done. I don't want to shoot the breeze with somebody. Um, you know, just, you know, get, change my order, or cancel it, or, place an order, or cancel my account, or what, you know, whatever it might be. And you just want to get stuff done.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I know my mom, you know, she'd want to call up and you know, actually speak to somebody. And now, you know, to your point, you know, Gen Zs, I guess millennials, and even me, I would prefer the chatbot, because you're right. It's you know, even if you have to wait for an answer, if it takes 30 seconds to get an answer, it's the ability to then do something else while you're waiting for an answer, as opposed to sitting there and hold and waiting for somebody to come on. And then I could see where the chat, if it's really intelligent, it could make a, you know, a huge difference in getting something and having a good experience with that. So how do you see, though, like the ultimate chatbot, and how that kind of helps you to think about, you know, the brain and how the brain works, and what is really intelligence?
Yes. You know, just one quick comment on what you said is, when you say on the chat you may have to wait a little bit before you get a response. The main reason for that would be that a lot of chatbots still have a human in them. You may not know it, because what call centers try to do is they try to reduce costs by moving from phone to chat, where the operator can then actually operate, you know, manage 3 or 4 or 5 chats at the same time. And that's actually the reason why you have the delay. If it's a truly automated intelligent system, there wouldn't be a delay. So again, it's having the right technology. And what it does require is it does require that what we call a brain, a cognitive engine that really can deeply understand what you're talking about, has that memory, has the context, has the ability to reason about it. And it requires what on the AI side is called a cognitive AI approach or cognitive architecture, something that works similar to the way the human mind works, that can think. And the current excitement about large language models such as ChatGPT and so on really don't have that ability. They are amazing for generating ideas, like copy or even logos and things like that. But they really you cannot rely on them to have a structured conversation that needs to incorporate business rules, call up APIs and so on, because, they make up stuff and they really aren't reliable. So your legal team can't sign off on it. Your QA, your marketing side really can't sign off on this kind of lack of reliability.
Yeah, you bring up the legal side. It's kind of interesting. One of our clients is in financial services, and one of the things that they would like to do is to be very hyper personalized, just like you're talking about. And but hyper personalization means that you have not a random set of answers, but you have many possible answers, and
Right.
certainly some that may have never been seen before, so to speak. And because they're in financial services, they need to have a lawyer actually review every piece of material and every piece of text, and every, at some point it just gets ridiculous in terms of how much they need to see. And have you run into that at all, where the legal side kind of inhibits what can actually be implemented?
Yes, you always have that kind of issue, and it doesn't help that, like, the European Union with, like, the cookies thing and so on, and all of this copy. But actually, chat for that is easier because you can kind of scroll through it. Whereas on a phone interaction, to have to listen to 2 minutes worth of disclaimers or something is really frustrating. Which some of the medical systems and legal systems have. So, hopefully, again, in the future, the direction we're hoping things will go is that things, as they become hyper personalized, and you really have that individual concierge service, that there will also be that, you've already agreed to the terms and the system recognizes you. It's not that you making a connection and you're an unknown entity, so that you can hopefully just go through the legalese, once, and then be a known entity. Now, if I look further forward into the future, and what we are working on as a company is to continually increase the IQ of our system, and sometime in the not too distant future, we'll be able to offer personal assistants that can do this kind of stuff for you, where you own that personal assistant and it can deal with whatever, whether it's a human or another AI or even a crappy AI on the other side. And that is ultimately the future, where you're offloading this, basically, if my AI talk to your AI.
Let my artificial people talk to your artificial people.
Exactly. Yeah, right. That's really what you want to do, is so you can tell your AI and just normal English, and it knows all about you already.
Yeah.
What you want to do, and it can do that. Make an appointment with my doctor for next week, and okay, it'll jump through whatever hoops you need to jump through to get the appointment done.
How interesting. That makes a lot of sense. Now that is what I'm looking for. The other thing too, we didn't talk about it, but as you were talking, a thought went through my mind. This morning I was at a small conference, and it had to do with how to read, just tracking where and what causes car accidents. And to me, can an automated driver actually do a better job than humans. And the question, though, is in that case, do you expect that automated driver to be perfect? Does it even need to be perfect? Because the humans are so bad, they get drunk, they drive too fast, they've got distractions or whatever, whereas the automated human kind of can do that a lot better and not have that. Certainly there's going to be mistakes, there's just little things that go wrong. But do you see, it sounds like you have that same thing going on where the automated chatbot, this artificially intelligent chatbot, can actually do a significantly better job than the human chatbot.
Yes, and we're in a much better position here because, if we do something wrong, it's not that somebody dies potentially, and that's a problem with self-driving cars. Is even if statistically they are better than humans, it's not really tolerated. There's a liability, and it may be not rational, but that's the way humans think about it. If a self-driving car has an accident and kills somebody, then that's not acceptable. It makes a mistake. But with customer service, it's not the end of the world if a conversation goes a little bit south. And clearly, you can get to a point where, on average, you're providing much better service than with all the problems we spoke about in being able to get and train human operators.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another problem, of course, in the call center is varying demand. You either have too many people sitting around a lull period, or you have too few. With AI, that can automatically adjust to the demand. And like with 1-800-Flowers, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, things go absolutely haywire.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And I understand that a long time ago, we were helping to provide computer systems for AT&T for answering the 800 number and taking orders. So they would put out a national ad blitz, and then within seconds, they had this huge spike of demand, and then they had to have the call center people just sitting there, trained, ready to go when that ad hit. And and then of course it would hit, and then it would go away, and then hit and go away, and hit and go away, and being ready for that was just a nightmare. Apparently it took like 20 seconds. So the ad hits, and within 20 seconds they were totally full up. And but here, I think you're right. You almost have, I guess you could tune the capacity so that you have almost unlimited demand if you can somehow scale it up and and have that ability to be able to answer whatever that demand is.
Yes, and in fact, that's quite doable now. Now that most of these systems run on cloud services, you can scale up very, very quickly, and almost unlimited capacity. With the big cloud providers just can very rapidly give you that extra capacity. So that's become a lot easier.
Yeah, and of course they charge through the nose for that capacity, but nevertheless, if you can take care of all of that demand coming in that very short period of time, that's a huge business opportunity.
You only have to pay for it when you need it. My first AI company, we had our own data center, and the data center, we had to have the equipment for the maximum demand, and most of the time it was running at 20%.
Yep.
But you pay for all of that equipment, whereas now using cloud services, we just pay for what is used.
Now, one thing, and this is going to get a little bit off maybe, and so if it doesn't make sense, that's okay. One of the things that so today I can go into ChatGPT and I can start as a conversation, so to speak, and it can give me results and start to help me to do whatever my task is. Who owns that result? So if I'm sitting there providing the prompts it gives me answers, and I refine my prompts. It gives me answers. Who owns that? Who owns that output there?
Yeah, a very, very important question. And the answer is unless you have a specific arrangement, they own it and they will use it to train the model on an ongoing basis. So large enterprise companies obviously can't deal with that. I mean, you have people doing research on, product development or asking questions, that might be sensitive. So what large companies offer, I know Microsoft offers, and I'm sure the others either do already or will soon, where they will guarantee that the large language model they provide you, the data will not be used for training. But of course, you have to then pay for that. It's basically you have your own private large language model, your own private ChatGPT type system that will, where the data will not be used, will not be shared. You can use that own data to train if you like, but you have full control over that.
Yeah.
But the general service that even if you pay for it, pay for ChatGPT Plus or something, they will use the data.
Well, so does that mean then that if I'm, let's say, trying to do some product innovation and I put in, and I have a conversation going, that it could potentially be used, my input then could be potentially used by a competitor if they start asking similar questions, and somehow then, that would be ingested.
Yeah, I mean, it may be unlikely, but they have tested things and found things exactly like that. Now, that will only happen in the next iteration that is released, when they retrain the model, because what your interactions that you have don't actually get into the model until they do their next training run. And these training runs are incredibly expensive. I mean, for ChatGPT, I believe it's north of $100 million. But next time they train it, it will include your conversation. And then if a competitor asks a question that was related to what you said, if you had some idea you were trying to throw around that maybe you want a patent or, new business model, absolutely, it would then give that information.
Yeah, so basically then as a competitor, then what I need to do is I need to say, okay, my biggest competitor is, let's say, Microsoft, and I'm sitting here and I'm Google. I said, so tell me all the stuff that Microsoft just entered in the last run.
Yeah, I don't know if that would work because the language model typically, well, in fact, one of its shortcomings is it typically doesn't know where the information came from, because it's such massive of information, which is a problem, because sometimes it will quote some fact, supposed fact, with great confidence, but it's completely made up. And you can't, if you ask, well, give me the source of that, it'll actually make up a source. For example, I could say, tell me about the article that Peter Voss wrote about kidney disease or something, and it'll promptly tell you the article that I wrote about kidney disease, and it'll give me the reference, it'll give you a reference. Everything completely, utterly bogus.
Oh, that's fascinating. So, this has been very interesting, Peter, but I do have one last question. And that is, well, actually, let me step back, because one of the things we did in the tease, we talked about prompt engineering. So tell us what you mean by that, or what that's all about, and how important that is going to be in the future.
Yes. So while large language models like ChatGPT really are not suitable for customer service, anything beyond sort of FAQs, where the person can kind of, well, does this make sense? Is this useful or not? You really cannot use that technology for it. It's just not reliable enough, and you can't embed all of the business rules and robust APIs and so on. So you need something like a chatbot with a brain to do that. But on the other hand, what this technology is really, really good at is at generating ideas, generating copy, generating images now. It's really fantastic at that. Now, the trick is, though, to get the best quality, to get the kind of style that you want, of whether it's an image or copy, you need to prompt the system. You need to tell it what you want in a certain way. And that is quite a skill. And this is basically like a new profession now called prompt engineer or prompt engineering, to really understand how the different models perform, how you can get them to perform in the best possible way. You may need to iterate and kind of coax the system into a certain way of responding. And if you're good at that, then you can get really very good results. Now, as we said, I think the generic way of using them tends to create sort of pretty boring copy. It's always kind of the same style, which is not terribly exciting. So either through prompt engineering, you can spice that up and make it unique, or you could take that copy and then use the skill of the human copywriter to edit it and put their own sort of spin and flavor in that. But it certainly can improve the productivity significantly. So I think anybody in that field, working in that field, it really pays them to get to know these tools and learn how best to use them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even, as I've been using it, and I don't use it terribly much, but you can tell that the better you put in the prompts and the re-entering of the prompts with slight variations really gets you to a much better answer. So that makes a lot of sense. So it'll be interesting then. So at some point, then my old electrical engineering degree will then be replaced by a prompt engineering degree. So
right. I think one of the other interesting things that it's really not quite clear how that's going to play out, but there is a shift away from search, Google search and so on. And in marketing terms, I mean, that could be really, really big. If people use ChatGPT to get answers or similar products rather than search, where's the advertising going to plug in? Are they also going to inject that into ChatGPT? Horrors of horrors, If you're having a conversation with that, you're asking a question and say, "Oh, you may be interested in this product here,"
Sponsored link.
Yeah, I wonder how that's going to play out. But if there seems to be a trend, and I think it might well accelerate, of people going away from search. You may have found that yourself, or that certain answers you can get quicker, better answers from ChatGPT than search.
Yeah, that's definitely true. You're right. I have seen that, and I could definitely see that there's maybe some interesting ways to add advertising to prompt, to the interface or somehow. But it's going to be very different. To your point, it'll be very different than having the sponsored links at the top and then the organic links kind of underneath that. So yeah, that'll be because it's funny too, because if you think about Google and Bard, as their rendition of their ChatGPT, as people then start to move and shift over from Google search over to Bard, then their revenue, which is their primary reason for being alive, is it could start to decline, and they're eating their own grandchildren, so to speak.
Yes, I'm sure execs at Google have been scratching their heads over that for the last couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, anything else you'd like to mention before I ask you my last question?
No, please go ahead.
All right. Well, this one's it's an easy one, but I always like to ask it. Is what advice would you give to an up and coming marketer that's interested in getting into marketing and AI?
So I'll give a bit more generic response there. I think the biggest sort of, or one of the regrets I have is that I didn't actually get into my own business until I was 25. So if you have that kind of mindset, you know, that you entrepreneurial mindset, really the sooner you can start, you know, whether it's an intern or a partner or trying something yourself, there's really nothing like jumping in the deep end and getting to know how to, you know, run a business. And nowadays, of course, it's much simpler to start your own business from home or whatever. Try it out. So I think that's really important. You know, and it's much more important than having degrees because they tend to be stale, especially as things are moving that fast. That if you are actually, you know, in business, you're getting the
Mm.
experience. It's current information you're dealing with. So basically, just do it. You know, that would be my advice. No, it's not for everyone, but you know, if you're that way inclined, just try and work with somebody that can show you the rope. You know.
Mm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, and I appreciate that. That's the Nike form of entrepreneurialism is just do
Right.
it, just do it. Well, fantastic. So, Peter, thank you so much. So, where can people learn more about you and your business?
Very simple. Aigo.ai, aigo.ai, and I'm Peter Voss. You can find me on LinkedIn or peter@aigo.ai. And obviously, any enterprise companies that really want to improve their customer service experience and, you know, have help with the call center pain point, to contact us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciate it. And that link is aigo.ai, aigo.ai, aigo.ai. And otherwise, to the audience, please stay tuned for many other videos in this series on the backstory of marketing and AI. And if you can, please visit marketingmachine.prorelevant.com to download various excerpts of my book. Peter, again, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.